I'm with Dov Hirth from Aleh. Now, Dov, what is Aleh?
Aleh is an organization that services children with severe disabilities in Israel. We have 4 residential facilities: Jerusalem, Bnei Brak, Gedera, and the Negev. And we service on a daily basis over 750 children with severe disabilities from across the country.
Now, when were you started and why were you started?
That's a good question. The organization was started well over 30 some odd years ago. We started because there was a group of parents who wanted to give their children that had severe disabilities better chance, bigger potential, greater opportunities. And those things did not exist in Israel. So therefore, they rented an apartment in the city of Bnei Brak, which is right near Tel Aviv. They hired a teacher, they got a couple of volunteers, and they started the organization Aleh. Aleh in Hebrew is an acronym for Ezer Liyeled HaMiyuchad, helping the children that are special.
So really, it's out of a difficult situation, a frustrating situation, that this organization was birthed and born.
Yes, 100%. And it was really the parents, 30 years ago, there were not a lot of opportunities for children with disabilities. They were either, in a hospital or in some sort of setting where they were taken care of physically, but, emotionally, psychologically, trying to give them more opportunities, trying to advance them. Those things didn't exist, and therefore it was a need that was sought to be corrected, and these parents, thank God, stepped up.
And what sort of needs do the children have?
Well, it varies. A lot of them have, unfortunately, genetic diseases. A lot of them have disabilities coupled with medical problems. Some of the children are, Down syndrome with, some sort of brain impairment, stuff like that. There are 2 types of residents, there are 2 types of children that come to the Aleh organization. Either they were born that way, meaning there was some sort of complication during birth, and unfortunately, due to their situation, they were born with lack of oxygen. Something happened in that time period. Or we have, these are the more unfortunate cases where it was a normal, healthy child, and because of some sort of an accident, whether it was a road accident or, slipping in the bathtub and being underwater for too long, those type of situations, so that these type of children also end up at Aleh under our care.
Do you have people from the religious community that marry within families, so that causes a problem with disability as well?
Not that I'm aware of, not that I know of. I know that there are genetic diseases, amongst Ashkenazic Jews in particular, but I'm not familiar with all the ins and outs.
And what sort of things do you do with the children?
Excellent question. Their day starts early in the morning, 7:30, getting the kids up, getting them out of bed. It's an actual, that's a job in itself, depending on which facility they're in. Our Jerusalem and Bnei Brak centers are for very low-functioning children. Our Negev and Gedera centers are for higher functioning, but let's just use the Jerusalem center as an example. Getting the kids out of bed, changing diapers, showering, brushing teeth, all this has to be done for them, not something that they could do on their own. And starting from there, getting everyone into their classrooms and starting the day, breakfast, stuff like that.
Do the children go into a school program, and do you have to assess them beforehand to see where their abilities lie?
Yes, excellent question. So basically the way that it works is, we have a special education school. It is run according to the standards of, the Israeli Ministry of Education and Special Education, but it's obviously on a very different level. The children are not put into classrooms based on age or based on, gender or anything like that. They're basically put into classrooms based on ability, and within each classroom, the teacher has the incredible job of trying to give these kids the best opportunities for them to learn throughout the day. In a typical classroom, you will have 5 to 7 children. You will have in that classroom a teacher, a caregiver, an assistant, and a volunteer or a national service girl. A national service girl are girls that instead of going to the army here in Israel, where they're required to go to the army, they volunteer their time at various organizations and institutions. They could volunteer their time in the Israel Museum. They could volunteer their time at Aleh. They could do it at at the Knesset. There are many, many places where they can do these type of things, and we are very fortunate to have a number of national service girls that come to the Aleh centers and help us tremendously. So back to what I was saying, in general, you will have anywhere between 4 to 5 adults caring for 5 to 7 children in a classroom.
Is it like one big family when they're all together in the classroom?
100%. It is one big family. The organization itself is one big family. We work together. One of the main things that I want to stress is that Aleh, the organization, is not a replacement for the parents. We are there to help the parents with their children. These kids can't live at home, not because the parents don't want them to live at home, but because of their situation, because of the severity of their disabilities, and their, many of them have also medical complications, so it's just physically and not possible for them to live at home. For example, if one of our residents, we would need in a typical apartment here in Israel where you have 5 rooms, they would have to reserve one full room, just for his or her needs, and it would mean that somebody always has to be home. It just, I don't want to use the word interferes, but it hampers the ability for the family to continue. A lot of the residents that are with us in Aleh have very healthy siblings, brothers, sisters, and they're all part of the global Aleh family. One of the main things that we work together with the families is we have support groups for the parents, for the siblings, for the grandparents. Anything and everything that we do at the organization, the parents are made aware of. They have to sign off on any sort of changes, a change in medication, a change in a therapy. The parents are extremely, extremely involved on the day-to-day basis. If there's an accomplishment, if there's a cute photo that, was captured, it's sent to the parents. And just to preempt your question, we have some parents that visit every single day. We have some that visit once a month. We have some that visit once every 3 months, But in general, the participation of the families is very, very strong and solid.
Are families often desperate for support?
Yes and no. It's very difficult to take your child out of your home and put him into a facility that's not your house. It's a tremendous difficulty for the parents, and God should help all of us that we should not be in that situation. But when the parents are faced with that situation, they really have to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of thinking, and they have to decide what's best for the child. One of the main things that we do, we offer tremendous amounts of support to the parents. Not financial support, because the child is at Aleh, so they don't need the extra financial support, but the emotional support and the love and the connection. I'll tell you a story. Just the other day, I was at the Aleh Jerusalem Center, and I was passing by the office of our social worker. We have a team of social workers, but this is the head of the social workers that works in the Jerusalem Center. So I popped my head in to say hi, how you doing, how's everything, And she said to me, I just hung up the phone with one of the families that their child passed on. So I said, oh my gosh, that's so nice, how are they doing, how are they holding up, this, that, whatever. And she said, they're doing well. And she said, I want to tell you that 3 times a year before the main holidays, before Rosh Hashanah, before Passover, and before Sukkot or something like that, she calls all these families and she told me that the parents tell her, we're waiting for your phone call. We because you are reminding us that our child is not forgotten. And even though he passed on because of his, disabilities and because of his medical conditions, he's still a part of the Aleh family. She is still a major part of your life, and it brings them a lot of comfort.
Mm. Does disability affect the whole family? So maybe all the focus is on that disabled child, so some other children get left out in some ways?
Yes, 100%. That's often the case when you have one child that's in a situation where they require a lot more attention and a lot more time. The other children, quote unquote, suffer. It's difficult for them, and that's another consideration for the family.
Now, you've already said you have volunteers. Do you rely heavily on volunteers when they come in to work for you?
We rely on the volunteer. First of all, let me backtrack. Our appreciation and our gratefulness to the volunteers that come is above and beyond any words that we could possibly convey. We have volunteers from all walks of life. We have an international volunteer program, which you could check out on our website, www.aleh, that's ALEH.org. These are people from all over the world. We have people from China, we have people from Russia, we have people from New York City. They come here for 3 months, for 5 months, for a year, and we put them up in housing, and we provide them with pocket money, and they're here, and they dedicate their time that they're here for these children. We also have local volunteers. These are seminary students or students that are in the 11th, 12th grade. They come and they help with the kids, not in the sense of, therapy, but in the sense of bringing joy and happiness. There's actually a beautiful, beautiful group of young ladies that comes every single night to the Aleh Jerusalem Center. And they go from bed to bed, and they sit and they say the bedtime prayers with the children. In Hebrew, it's called the Shema. And they sing to them, and they help them calm down so that they can go to sleep. And then they go home. That's their volunteering. They come every single night of the year, and they go from room to room, and it's really, really beautiful. We have volunteers that come from high-tech companies. They come, they want to see how they can help, what they could do. We've had some really innovative ideas come from some of these individuals that come from these high-tech companies, how we can adjust a wheelchair, or how if we would implement this into the setting of a room, we can add additional lights. These guys come and they really help us in a lot of ways. On a general basis, in an average week, throughout the organization, throughout the 4 centers, we have thousands of volunteers that are coming through and helping us, to help these kids.
Do you provide therapy for the kids, and is that important for them?
Absolutely, absolutely. Their entire day is based really on different therapies: physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, occupational therapy, creative arts therapy, all these type of therapies. Even within the special education school, which we mentioned briefly before, there's therapies going on throughout the day. I've witnessed many lessons being taught. So in an average class, let's say you were teaching, the Hebrew alphabet, the Aleph Bet, So you would use maybe a projector, you would use maybe some toys, something like that to, with these kids, they use, everything is all sensory. If they were trying to use, I'll just do, for the English, let's say it's ABC, right? So we were trying to, A is for apple, right? So the teacher would walk around with an apple. Each child would touch the apple, and she would say over and over, A is apple, B is for a ball. So she brings a ball, and everything's sensory, everything's hands-on, everything's touching. And throughout the day, you could walk into any typical classroom, you'll have the teacher there with 5 or 6 of the kids, and one of the kids is with a therapist, on the other side of the room, having occupational therapy done. One of the things that we strive for at Aleh is to give the kids everything and anything that they need to reach their fullest potential. For example, we do get government funding. Oftentimes, it's not enough for what the child needs. So that's where our generous donors come in. I'll give you an example. Let's say we have a girl, her name is Sarah. Our professional staff sees that Sarah would benefit greatly from hydrotherapy every day of the week. So the government would pay, let's say, for 3 days of the week, and the rest of it would be fundraised. That type of thing. The cost for the parents to come to Aleh is zero. It is all covered by the government and, of course, our generous donors. In Israel, the cost of living is very expensive here, and to have a child with disabilities is quite difficult, and this is where the kindness of our government steps in, and they say, we understand your situation, and you will put your child in a place where he or she can be helped, and we'll help you make sure that you don't have to work 5 jobs to cover the costs.
Now, obviously, a child is disabled, so you're not necessarily going to see a change in that disability, but do you see a change over the years from the first time they came in to maybe when the day that they leave?
Excellent question, and the answer is 1,000%. We've had children that have come to us, they weren't communicating. What does that mean, communicating? For us, communicating does not mean sitting and having a conversation like we are now. Communicating means is that they're making eye contact, and that when you're speaking to them and you're asking them a question, they blink to indicate that they're happy with what you're saying or they're unhappy with what you're saying. We have other kids who communicate just by wiggling their tongue. That means that they're trying to tell us something, and the staff has to learn, each and every child, the way that they communicate so that they can understand them. We've instituted, and we use it quite often, the eye tracking system. This is a device that is set up to a laptop or to a iPad, and the child can, through eye movements, actually communicate words and make sentences and stuff like that, and it's amazing. We have so many cases where the kids come in and they can't feed themselves, or they can't even walk by themselves, and they come to Aleh, and with our therapists and our teachers and our services, they're walking on their own, they're feeding themselves. No, they're not talking, but they have a smile from ear to ear, and there's just a really beautiful, beautiful glow on their face. I want to point out to you one thing that I find extremely, extremely special. If you come to the Aleh Center and you look in these kids' eyes, you will see that their eyes are very, very clear. And my personal belief is that they say that the eyes are the window to the soul. And since these children, their soul is so pure because they've never sinned in their lives, they've never done anything wrong, so the window to their soul is completely clear, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and these kids are super, super special, and they're absolutely they're the diamonds. They're the reason that humanity, we have to push ourselves to become better people. And these kids are a constant reminder. And Aleh is not a sad place. We're not walking around all day saying, oh my gosh, and look at him and look at her. It's a happy place. It's a home. Just like in our homes, we have pictures of our kids on the wall. You walk around any of our centers, there are pictures all over the walls of the children in various activities. We're always having a good time. Our afternoons are geared towards therapies, but in a fun way. Clown therapy, medical therapy, animal therapy, all these type of things, and it works wonders.
Why do you do what you do?
Me personally? Why do I do what I do? I have to say that I'm working for this organization for 12 years. I consider it a privilege to come into work every single day for these kids. They're truly amazing, and it's besides for the fact that there's such a great feeling of accomplishment and of love when I'm able to assist them in some small way. A donor recently contacted me here in Jerusalem. She's redoing her living room, and she has a very nice couch. would one of the centers be able to use it? That makes me feel amazing. Of course, go there, pick up the couch, bring it in. Now the kids have a nice place to sit, and all the other things that we do. One of the greatest feelings that you can have as a fundraiser, as a person that's out there trying to change and help and all these type of things, is actually seeing that happen. When I walk into a building and I see the wheelchair that I helped through my efforts, this child now has an electric wheelchair, whereas before he had a manual, that's amazing. It's a calling, It's a calling. It's not easy work, that's for sure. Not for me personally, and not for any of the staff, especially the staff that are hands-on, these teachers, these caregivers. They're there day in, day out. A couple of years ago, we had a severe snowstorm here in Jerusalem, very rare. And the staff that was in the building at the time, collectively, they said, okay, the other staff, the next shift is not going to be able to come in. And the next shift after that, they ended up staying in the building to be with the kids and to be on call for an entire weekend without going home, without having, their proper beds, because it's a calling, it's a dedication. You really have to be a certain type of person to do it. And we are blessed to have a large staff of those types.
Are you making a difference in the community?
Yes, 100%. One of the goals of Aleh is not only to help the children, but it's also to change the outlook, the way that people see disabilities, to market and to promote disability inclusion. And we do it very, very well. A lot of things in Israel have changed because of Aleh. A lot of laws have changed, a lot of outlooks. We are not a home hidden away in a corner. We are a community home. The community is always, our doors are always open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anyone from the community can come in. When we constantly have community events that integrate the community and our population together. We have a beautiful, beautiful program that we work with high schoolers, middle school and high schoolers. It's called Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam is obviously changing the world, fixing the world, whatever you want to call it. And Tikkun Olam program, we're starting with the kids at a very young age, teaching them about disability inclusion. They learn about it in the classrooms. Then they actually come to the various centers and they work with the kids hands-on. And we've seen tremendous, tremendous success. And the most beautiful thing that a lot of these teens have said to us is, this guy is not my case. He's my friend. I became friends with Baruch. I've become friends with Sarah. And that's the most beautiful thing. In our Negev facility, we actually had, a number of years ago, an amazing innovation where we took a regular ed kindergarten and we combined it with our special ed kindergarten. And initially, the parents' response was, absolutely not. I don't want my child learning. Now there's a waiting list. There's fights between parents to get in because these parents see from the tiny little kindergarten age children that these kids are growing up kinder, more understanding, more polite, more accepting, and they'll walk into a supermarket and they'll see somebody in a wheelchair, and instead of shying away behind mom's skirt, they'll run over and give the person a hug. And the parents are seeing tremendous change, and this is things that we're trying to do throughout the country.
What's your prayer, finally, for the disabled children that come to your center?
My prayer is that they should have peace. They should be happy. They should be healthy. And they should feel and know that God is watching over them. And they are God's children. And He showers His love onto them. And through us, through the staff, through the caregivers, through everyone that's involved, He's showing them guys, I know that you had to come down to this world in a certain situation, but I love you, I'm here for you, and I'm taking care of you. And, listen, these are the kids that keep the world on that even keel of kindness and helping and hand in hand. I pray for the children of Aleh every single day, that they should be healthy, happy, and content, and they should just feel good in every possible way.
And what's your website again for people who'd like to know more, perhaps even want to volunteer?
www.aleh, that's ALEH.org. Again, it's www.aleh.org. If you're in the UK, it's www.aleh.org.uk. But through our main website, you can get to any of our various country websites. We have facilities only in Israel. We have centers only in Israel, but we have volunteers from all over the world. And anyone, even if you want to just come and visit, wherever you are if you're in Israel, drop me an email. You just send an email to info@aleh.org. I get those emails, info@aleh.org. Tell me you're going to be here for this and this day. You'd like to come, see it firsthand. Absolutely no problem. And we thank you all for your time and for opening your hearts to our amazing organization. And God bless.
Okay, Dov, thank you much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.